Hi everyone, it is time for Practice Time with Ms. Rhona, a series where I share practice tips and practice tricks, and hopefully you will get some helpful information along the way. So today's topic is practice planning, but in terms of long-term planning. So you have a piece and you need to learn it within a certain time frame, or you're preparing for an exam. So before I start putting some sheet music up though, let me just pop up the copyright disclaimer there. Just make sure we tick all the boxes. So this is for educational purposes. All right, so first off, let us take a look at a typical, or what should be a typical learning timeline for a piece. So let's take a look at this here. So we've got a piece that one of my students is going to be working on soon. So the dry hands theme from the Minecraft game. So I can put a link to this specific arrangement down in the comments or in the video description below. So let's just take a look at it. So we got 1, 2, 3 lines. Okay, if it's within a student's technical ability and musical ability, something like this will probably take roughly 6 weeks. The longer pieces will take, if it's an ARCT piece, it's going to take a couple of months. I know this particular student probably can have it learned in a month, if not a little bit less. So let's just take a look how many bars we have. We've got 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So 21. So what you need to do is think backwards. So there's 4 weeks in a month and 21 bars. That's roughly 5 bars a week. Yeah, that's doable. That's definitely doable. 5-ish. I mean, it's going to change a little bit because of phrasing. You really don't want to end up the beginning of or in the middle of a phrase. So let's just start marking that up here. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4. So that looks like the end of a phrase there. 1, 2, 3, 4 there. And I could use that. I kind of alternate with my students between using an actual breath mark and actually just adding bracket. 1, 2, 3, 4. That looks like a good spot to stop. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, a lot of these video game themes will go in a standard 4-bar motive or an 8-bar phrase. And then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that one's a little bit different. Okay, so that's going to be its own chunk. Okay, so week 1 for learning. Week 2. So yeah, don't try to learn it all in one bite. Week 3 and then week 4. And then weeks 5 and 6 would be polishing it up. Might take a few more weeks, especially if it's a faster piece and you need to bring it up to speed. This is 90s, medium-ish. So then that would be, yeah. Week 5 would be perhaps just dealing with treble spots. Might need, treble spots. And then week 6 could be polishing. Actually, that could be speed work. 6, and then 7 and 8 can be polishing. So just really adding in the shaping. Another approach would be to just try to get that all in as you learn it. It really depends on your learning style. So in that case, you might spend 2 weeks on each of these units, these phrases, and then just try to get all the elements. Breaking this down by like how much to do in a week, you could do like this student, I would encourage a few days of practice just doing this hand separate. And then a few more days of hands together, but maybe in small chunks. So maybe that could be like a few days on just the first 2 bars, and then the next couple days on the remaining 2 bars. So maybe 2 days on that, and then maybe 2 days on that, and then day 5. Oh, this student actually tends to do 6 days. So days 5 and 6 can be just putting it all together. So putting together. Writing with a stylus is, kind of works, kind of doesn't. And then rinse and repeat with the following sections. So the only thing that's going to be different would be that last phrase, the coda. It's last phrase with a coda, this tail end here, tacked on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it's 5. It's 5. I miscounted. Oops. That one might take a bit longer, but that gives you a rough idea. So if a piece like this is just a few levels above your playing level, then it's going to take more than 2 months. And that takes care of an actual learning timeline. Okay, so next up, let's take a look at a longer timeline. So you're preparing for an exam or a music festival or a competition. How do you break that down? And what I've learned is the backwards timeline. So this is, let me just put the board up here. Give me a sec. So this is something that I learned when I was doing marketing at the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra many moons ago. And I learned about it to figure out when I needed to start working on a press release for an upcoming concert. So you have to go by the due date and then work your way backwards. So for us, for an exam, let's say we're preparing for a June exam. So working backwards, June is exam. Okay, so June exam. Working backwards, typically March. Everything that is going to be memorized needs to be memorized at that point. Means sometimes doesn't totally all work out that way. My students and I and my colleagues can tell you that it is a really tough slog and that memory is all kind of a little bit wobbly if things aren't memorized by this point. So, I mean, some of these, you're only getting 1 memory mark or 2 memory marks. So is it worth a 16-mark piece to try memorizing it when it's not clicking? It's a bit of a numbers game. On the plus side, you do play a little bit more, well, you play with a lot more expressiveness, and you're listening more if you're not staring at a page. But on the other hand, some pieces are really, really hard to memorize, so you have to kind of pick and choose. So if you go off of that timeline that it takes roughly 2 months, 6 weeks to 2 months to actually memorize something, and then another to learn something, then you go backwards from there. So let's just pick grade 6, for example. Grade 6 RCM. Okay, so if everything needs to be memorized, and basically you're probably sitting there going, well, I still have April and May and a bit of June. So what are you going to be doing during those points? Well, hopefully in the spring we'll go back to having music festivals again, so perform at music festival. So, and you're going to be working on polishing your expression, so, and just really fortifying that memory, and this will be performed lots. You have to pressure test your pieces and your technique, because it's one thing to get it all really good in, your living room, in your practice room, but you need to be able to perform on game day, D-Day. Speed work as well, because as anyone who's doing either the RCM or the Conservatory Canada exams can tell you, you have to try to get a certain speed. So this is all going to be the same here. Okay, so working backwards. You have 3 repertoire pieces and 2 studies. plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 keys to learn. 8 keys, so we are looking at September to January is what, 5 months? 6. So 6 months to learn 8 keys. So you probably want to do, it's always good to be a little bit faster. So let's say, I like the pincer attack. So where you're coming at something from 2 angles. So let's add for technical. Let's try and spell technical correctly. Working on an easier key, so G major, and then a harder key, C sharp minor. There's various ways you can go about it. You can go like straight across or like down the circle of fifths, whatever floats your boat. I tend to like to do like an easy key and a hard key just to give the brain a break. So this actually puts us a little bit ahead of schedule and a little bit of wiggle room in case, you know, exams, school exams, or for an adult student, work and family life get in the way. So you have a 2-month buffer, but at least have these learned. Say that you actually stick with this routine, then you could be just fortifying your notes and fingering. And then this, like I said, could be a buffer. So next step would be dealing with pieces. You could go a couple of ways. You could learn them all at once. It really, again, depends on, you know, your learning style and your teacher as well. I've noticed a lot with my students that 3 is a magic number. Schoolhouse Rock. That seems to be a good manageable number. It's good to balance the easy and the hard. I've learned this at university. Don't put all your hardest subjects in the same semester. So here, don't put all your hardest pieces in the same learning cycle. So let's choose either list A or list B. So your Baroque or your classical, because those are hardest. Let's go with list A. So list A. Baroque. Oh, and yeah, if Con-Can kids, this would be group 1. Okay, then we could jump and do like the list C, which I think is group 3. Hang on, let me grab my Con-Can syllabus. Yes, group 3. Okay, I'm going to change okay, so etude number 1. In an ideal situation, you are learning several list A's and several list B's and finalizing. So if you are able to do that, that is fantastic, because that gives you a really solid understanding. For some of my students, it just doesn't quite work. So what we'll do is we will choose the pieces, but I'll still have them kind of work like as quick studies on other pieces, or just like learn a certain chunk just to get to learn the new technique that's in that piece. So it again really depends on the student. It depends on what else they've got going on, their learning style, and the teacher as well. So you have to kind of play around and see what works for you. But I'm going off of pretty much what I do with my students, where we pick these and then we'll toss in some other projects. Okay, so own choice. Okay, so that's learning. So it, you know, generally takes, let's say, a couple months. So then here, what we can add, so the next learning group, so RCM list B, it's a toss-up between the list A and the list B. I mean, list B is worth more marks, but sometimes it's a little bit easier to learn and memorize. So list B, so that's group 2 for Con-Can. And then we could say list this is etude number 2. So that would be a group 3 piece. Okay, the second group 3. So that's the 5 pieces for both conservatories covered. Fun projects, they're supplemental, let's say. Christmas music. Maybe you want to do Halloween music. Okay. I typically use September with my students as a chance to really review your rhythm, sight, reading. Depending on the student, we can jump right into the 4-star or the Bennett and Cap books, or sometimes we need the entire month for that review. It all depends. You cannot just simply drop the other pieces, so you have them learnt, so it's time to polish them up. So this can be starting to memorize. Okay, so start to polish and memory work on. And that we can say will likely, if this is your correct level, take a couple of months. December, I also like getting my students to read off of lead sheets, because the chances of being put on the spot to sight read something or to, you know, play something off of a chord chart or a lead sheet are rather high during family gatherings like Christmas and Thanksgiving. With my students, like I said, they'll pick their pieces. November we might start some like quick studies, so where they learn maybe excerpts of other songs from their grade, or actually learn another song from their grade, and then they have more options too when it comes time to choosing what to do for the exam. Like I said, this is just one way to go about exam prep, but it kind of gives you some ideas on how to break things down. By January, should be working on polishing and memorizing. So that gives you January, February, March. So that way you can hit your target of everything that needs to be memorized is memorized by March. You're training and sight reading through it all. You're just working through the book. Once you've done the book, it's what, 10 weeks worth? So what I like doing with my students is alternating, using, like say October, we can take a break from 4-star to really stretch it. November, December, we can focus on doing like seasonal music. At least this gives you a really good idea of like where you need to be to make things work. I thought what I would do, because this is kind of bugging me, is try to figure out like the other exam prep timeline, or, you know, multiple project timeline, if you're learning a bunch of repertoire and then deciding at some point which ones to take into your exam or competition or whatever. So let's give this a shot. It is actually kind of not the way I was taught, but I can totally see that there's total merits to doing things this way. So but yeah, we will experiment here together. So the idea is that you are going to, and yeah, I'm going totally old school here with paint. Just doing it this way because paint seems to respond better to my stylus. So let's do this. Okay, so here we are. So say September, and you're preparing for a June exam. So just like in the other timeline, March is like the key month to make sure that everything that's going to be memorized is memorized, so that this whole period here is just fortifying your memory and fortifying your expression, your musicality, performing lots, just working out every single kink. Everything from there to December is what differs. So what you want to do is have everything learnt. It can be slow, it can be rudimentary. memorize stuff, tempo, polish. But you essentially are giving yourself 4 months to learn a whole schwack of pieces. So it's quite the pace. It's a different kind of pace, but again, you're just going through, getting from start to the end. It wouldn't be too fast, but you would learn it as, you know, cleanly as you can. And then come December, January, that is when you start to finalize which pieces you are going to polish to do for a music festival or exam. So that's the way I would see breaking it down. So is one way better than the other? It depends on you. What works best for you? If you have another way of doing it, or you know, you've got other ideas to share, please drop them down in the comments. All right, so that's basically all I wanted to cover today in this episode. I think that is enough of planning. So next week, next episode, we'll chat about technique. Yeah, we'll talk about technique, a little bit about ergonomics as well. So technical requirements, scales, chords, and arpeggios, stretching your muscles and all that fun stuff. And keeping our muscles and our brain in that prime condition to practice. Thank you for checking out today's episode. If this is your first time on the channel, please check out some of the other episodes, some of the podcasts where I've had guests. We'll start those up again soon. Just September is really nuts for students as well as myself, just trying to get back into the routine. And yeah, sometime next month, stay tuned to the live stream series where my students and you will be sending me challenges to do in a practice that I'll live stream. We still need a name for that, so if you have any ideas, shoot me a message or drop it down in the comments. If you'd like to support the channel, smash that like button, hit subscribe, notification bell up top, and if you'd like to provide ongoing support to the channel or even a one-time donation type of support, head to our Ko-fi page, links down below. You'll see there's some content that is available to all levels of support, and then there's 3 membership tiers, so different perks for each level. So till next time, stay well and catch you in the next video. Bye!